are finally both on the Zoom meeting today. I want to welcome you to Majik Monday and thank you so very much for joining me. So in case you haven't been here before, my name is Glenda Kroll and I am the host of Majik Mondays, and I decided that Mondays have to be created as a beautiful day in the week instead of the whole hum day of the week that most people look at it as. Majik Mondays for me is creating magic and helping other people's lives. It's about obtaining information from one another so that life isn't such a struggle and that we can learn from each other's challenges and all different things that we have been through. And, it's not just always challenges, our gratitudes and all the abundances that we've had through our lives. And today I want to introduce you to Mary Mitchell, who is the Queen Mother Mary Mitchell. And this woman is just a delight. And I can't tell you how excited I am that you've joined me today. And you're going to be telling us about your story. Mary, please join in and tell us a little bit about you, or a lot about you.
Hi, thank you very much. And I agree, Mondays should be a day to just kind of reflect and realize that we all have stories, life experiences that we can share with one another. And if we listen or we watch very closely, we can gain knowledge about experiences and pass that on to others. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And I heard the words Queen Mother Mary, so I've got to explain to everyone what that's all about. I have an organization, Chrysalis Studios, and I encourage people to get connected with their heritage, to record that heritage, and to use that information to help tell their stories. Well, I went back and I got connected with my people in Ghana in a little village called Ayasi. And Ayasi has about 4,000 people in it, and they all turned out to anoint me, or whatever the term is. Now, I think it's called instool me as a queen mother of the village. And they gave me a new name, and the name Akuya means born on Wednesday. So that's one of my names that I was given. They made me Queen of Development. So I helped them to develop according to what is culturally appropriate, a different lifestyle in that little village of Ghana. And so being that all of my names are in Twi, and not a lot of us speak Twi, and we just kind of nicknamed me Queen Mother Mary. So that's how that all got started. And I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that, because it does in itself help to tell my story.
Well, I should be curtsying to you, Queen Mother. And I'm
No.
Back to, no, yes, at all. I to you because you're a very wise woman, and I believe that we should have respect for the wisdom that, as people get older, sometimes the younger generation, lot younger generation doesn't appreciate and respect the wisdom that is bestowed upon us as we get older. And that is just so important, and such a great, important piece of information. But so tell me, when you went back to Ghana, what type of things did you learn and did you see?
Well, one of the things, it stirred my interest in the whole aspect of storytelling. And in my culture, in my family, we used to have a little session where our grandparents used to sit out on the porch in a rocking chair, and we'd sit at their feet and we'd listen to the stories that they would tell. Well, I found that storytelling is very much a part of African culture, and in particularly in the villages and things of Ghana, they look to the elders and actually the ancestors to provide wisdom. So when people leave their physical body into the spiritual realm, they are considered to be ancestors, and they are thought to interact in some level, if not more than just through memories and the stories that were told about them. to give wisdom to the people that are occupying their bodies on earth. So that was one thing that I found that was very much a part of my culture, is also a part of my tribal culture, the whole art of storytelling. So with that knowledge, I was able to develop my own company that focuses on storytelling. And so that's one of the things, you have to excuse me, that's one of my clients from my organization right now that's calling me. And I thought that I had turned off my phone, but sometimes technology just interferes. So it's a little annoying, don't you think?
But we have learned, right? But it's part of, I think, of learning through our lives too, that instead of getting irritated by these things that don't always go right for us, I think part of the learnings of life is to allow life just to kind of flow.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And here I am right now. I'm actually in my home office, and anything can go wrong. Well, today's challenge was that, of course, it's warm here in Virginia, and I turn on my air conditioner. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Well, it started spewing out Freon. So challenge for tomorrow is to get that thing fixed.
yeah.
So now you might probably see and hear like an overhead fan in my my office, and sometimes you just have to laugh at these things. What
Well,
can you do? There's certain
nothing.
I don't
So
have the technical skills to deal with it. So it's what did I forget who said that, a part of life is what happens to you, the greater part is what you do about what happens to you. And today I just choose to smile.
well,
But I was talking a little bit about my particular story, and though I've had the opportunity to go back and connect with my Afrocentric diaspora connection to give me some insight into who I am, who my people are, do certain things, the things that we believe, the things that we don't believe, and but I personally have had some challenges, even though I promote the idea for people to go back into their past, their history, their life experiences, and to record that.
mhm.
In my particular company, we encourage, Chrysalis, we encourage people to do documentaries, film their experiences, gain knowledge from their elders and things of that nature. But I also partner with a playwright in Atlanta, T.Y. Martin, who's a famous award-winning playwright. And between the two of us, we capture these stories. But in my particular case, it's especially challenging because I have a condition that affects my brain and my thinking. Sometimes it causes me not to remember lots of details.
Thank
And
you.
what I did with that particular experience is I started writing again, and I started writing comedies and things that can be presented. I just interject, what if I had this particular experience? I would be a character that did this or said this or acted like this.
Oh, what
But
a
it's
fabulous
all a
idea.
part of recording your story, telling your story the way you did. My particular challenge with my brain is I have a condition called intracranial hypertension. And that means
Wow.
that all the fluid in my brain starts seeping out into all sorts of little places and everything. And they had to do a procedure to plug up the holes and reinflate my brain. And so that whole process of draining, I call it my brain drain. And what happens is I get forgetful. So the people that I used to know yesterday, I might not know tomorrow. But I've learned that me as a nurse, I've learned how to ask for the correct tests and the correct procedures and things of that nature so that I get the answers. And I use the healthcare system so that it helps me to grow from the experience. So what I actually have end up doing was going through a whole series of brain training. We do things like Sudoku and all things,
Yeah,
brain
right.
teasers and things like that, which are healthy for everyone, whether you have the brain drain or not. It
Absolutely.
keeps your, your neurons stimulated and things like that. And originally I thought, oh my gosh, I have Alzheimer's. Well, they did extensive tests, and he said, you got 20, 30 more years of productivity. Just do the little exercises and you'll be fine. There's no way you're going to have Alzheimer's. So it was out of knowing what to ask for, but I'm thinking that if I didn't know what to ask for, someone might have said, "Oh, she has Alzheimer's. Put me somewhere in a home or something like that," and I would have stumbled and fell, and that would have been the end of me. That would have been the end of my story. But I was allowed, by the grace of God, the opportunity to take that story and to learn from it and develop. And so I've actually written a little story, a little book that's it's actually called The Cog, and I did a feature where it shows the brain and it shows like little cogs at the bottom of it, because if you have a machine and one of those little pieces don't line up with the other piece, it
Hmm.
stops the whole operation. So when your brain is not functioning at the best level, it can stop a whole lot of things. But
Wow.
if you have the opportunity to retrain your brain to think clearly, then you can. And I'm just so blessed that I had that opportunity, but so a little bit annoyed, but not to the point that it showed an impossible thing. My partner, T.Y. Martner, and then I planned a presentation in Atlanta, and just before that, like a week before that, I had an episode, so I had to cancel the whole event,
Oh,
and it was on autism awareness, and that's something that's near and dear to my heart. So we went to Plan B. Plan B is that we open up the month of April every Thursday night from 8 to 9 on my radio station. We talk about autism, and we allow guests to come and talk about it, and it's been a wonderful experience. And I say that
beautiful.
it's only 1 week, but it's so far it's been wonderful. People call in with comments about their own families, about their own experiences. So out of every experience, if you look hard enough, look under a rock, look under whatever, you can find some positive thing that you can learn from, and you can help others to learn from.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't begin to tell you how much I agree with you because, like you're talking about autism, and for myself also, it's very near and dear to my heart because I have two siblings that are mentally challenged, and they have a genetic disorder called Fragile X, which is,
Yeah.
there's a portion of Fragile X, which is autism. And I've lived through it through my entire life. I'm the youngest of four, so I didn't know anything any better when I was growing up. And my brothers have been actually my greatest teachers. And I'm grateful how much society has changed in some respects, because it was terrible how people used to look at us when we used to go out and as a family and that. But there's still a lot of learning and teaching that needs to be done on anybody who has any type of special needs. And then there's the other challenges of what the families go through as they're aging now. Like my brothers are getting older, and the biggest worry I know my parents always talked about throughout all the years is what happens to the boys when they're no longer here to look after them. And
Right.
that became my challenge, and I'm grateful that I've found places and have they're living a good life because of it. But you need to prepare for these things ahead of time. So as I'm here talking with you, I just want to put it out there for people who do have family members or struggling with these things. That's why we're out here talking about these things, is because you need to know that there's answers to some of these questions, that you're sitting there and you're not alone, and you're not the only one that's going through all these things. Just like you're
Absolutely.
saying about your health, maybe something hits a chord with somebody and they see that, they're having things. maybe their problem isn't dementia either. Maybe it's, you got to listen to that little inner voice in you that says, if you're not happy with what's being told to you, you push the doctors. You keep
Absolutely.
pushing for what you want. You be, or have somebody in your family be there to help advocate for you of what you need to be done.
Oh, absolutely. You know, having an advocate or being your own advocate is so important in the healthcare. I know that we're in two different countries and we have two different healthcare systems, you know,
Yes,
but I think that within each there are certain challenges because rules change, coverage change, the way that people interact from the medical community change, and you have to be your own advocate or have someone to advocate for you. I know that, you know, I just know that there's no way that, you know, originally they did like a CT of my brain, and they were like, "There's nothing wrong." And then I said, "Well, you know, maybe we ought to do an MRI." And they're like, "Well, you know, that costs a lot." And I said, "Well, maybe we ought to do an MRI." And they said, "You know, sometimes it's not indicated." And I said, "Well, maybe we ought to do an MRI." And they were like, "Okay, be quiet, lady," you know, in a certain sense. But I was advocating for it because I know that there are things that an MRI can tell you that a CT does not, and that's because I know the medical community.
yeah,
But what about my cousin over there that doesn't know and gets the answer, and they're like, okay, so I have dementia, you know." No, you had the same thing that I had. And the reason that it was so dramatic is usually that type of condition you can attribute it to like you were in a car accident, you bumped your head or something. In my case, there was nothing. There was absolutely no reason. It just happened. And so, you know, if I hadn't pushed the button a little bit, I might have been misdiagnosed. And, you know, you just have to embrace your intuitive feeling sometimes that, you know, a little something
absolutely.
that says, you know, maybe we ought to look in a different direction, you know. But there's so many things, you know. I appreciate you talking about your brothers because, you know, with my grandson who's autistic, he has high functioning autism. So they started working with him when he was 2 years old in the school system and giving him speech, occupational, and physical therapy.
And
Now he's 12 and he does well in school.
wow,
But, you know,
makes
a
a
lot
major
of
difference.
people, especially in my culture,
Hmm.
like a long time ago, they used to just put that person in the back of the room, you know, and kind of hide them away and not bring them
Absolutely.
out and everything. And now society say bring them out. You know, one of the things is like my church has a lot of kids that have autism, and some of them walk up the aisle with no shoes on, the iPad next to the head, and you know, no one blinks an eye. They're totally accepted, you know,
Yes.
as just a member of the church community. And that's a wonderful thing. It's a rare thing, but it's a wonderful thing. And if we can enlarge that in our community to realize that just because someone thinks different or processes information differently, that doesn't make them someone that you should put in the background. You know, you should be thinking about creative ways that you can enhance their life, how you can learn from them, how you can
Oh,
teach them. You know, I've
beautiful.
learned so much from my grandson. I'm like, how did you get all that wisdom? You know, how did you get that wisdom? You know, so instead of looking at it as something that is you should hide, you should look at it and really learn from that person how to interact with someone differently.
My mother used to have something that she said when we were children, and we were all growing up, and it's carried with me even through when my children were young, and thank God I had healthy children. But I used to say to my children, you know what? We all are special in our own ways,
Absolutely.
and everybody's got some type of a special talent, and it doesn't matter what it is. We've all got something very unique about us, and that's what we're here to bring. And I always look for that because I never liked people thinking that they were better than anyone else. That was one of my most incredible pet peeves. I didn't like people who thought that because they had more financially or something, they always put themselves up. And that's not who I'm about. You know, it was always, I would always give them the messages, you know, you are special in your own way. And as, you know, my brothers are special in their own way. And that had given me a lot more of love and compassion in my heart. And I honestly believe even to my children as well because of that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about, embracing your story and bringing that story forward, because there's a message in the stories that we tell,
Oh
the
yeah.
message that we tell our loved ones, the message that we tell a stranger, the messages that the stranger tells us. It's just so valuable. There's not a coin or dollar bill that has been printed that can supersede that whole idea of gaining from the interactions, from the stories, from listening, from telling them and embracing them. And if it, every single life event can teach us something, and
And and even power us forward from things.
absolutely. I think that if we took the opportunity to learn and to help others along the line, what more could you expect? What more could you value in life is those interactions. You see someone who's struggling and you take the time and you say, oh, well, I might be able to help, right?
Yeah.
And it might be a little thing or it might be a big thing, but as long as in your heart you're committed to doing that, that's a wonderful, wonderful way to be.
Well, yeah, I believe that we're all here on this earth as one. I don't believe that I don't believe that, you know, because of race or religion or anything. I don't like that. We're all here as one, and what an incredible world we could make if everyone just gave that other person just a little bit more love and understanding. And you know what? We don't all have to agree. How about just the fact of agree to disagree?
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
think that's so
right?
important. It's and you don't have to get in a huff about it. It's like sometimes if you surround yourself with everyone that agrees with everything that you say, then you don't grow. Every now and then it's good to have someone to throw a little difference in there, and you're like, well, maybe there's another way of looking at that. And I know that both of us do a lot of coaching with people and things like that, and I said to someone, I said, coaches need coaches too,
Absolutely.
because we need to grow. We need to grow so that we are able to help other people. Otherwise we become stagnant. So, we're all learning from each other if we so choose. There's a whole theory about when a person is ready to make a change. And saying that you're ready to make a change is not necessarily the thing that will stir you to do that. You have to really want to and then make the moves to do it. And one of the ways that coaching helps is it establishes that accountability. If you say to yourself, I want to change the way that I interact with people by next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean next year? What month? What day? And what are you going to do? What steps are you going to do? And who are
Make
you
that
going to
change.
use to check you?
Yeah.
And so we can all help each other, but we got to be ready and willing and able to make changes in our life, even if that changes to listen to someone's different opinion, than yours. Make that commitment. I'm going to listen to somebody. I'm going to walk down the street and just ask somebody. It might not be a good idea sometimes, but there are places where you can ask people, what do you think of that? What do you think of this? And do you know about autism? What do you think about it? If someone said this kid has autism, what do you think? Do you think that they're intelligent, or do you think that they're mentally retarded, or do you think that they speak or they can't speak, or what do you think about them? And if you were gonna try to help them to be the fully realized adult, what do you think we need to do? Do you think we need to look at places where they live, where they go to school? how they can interact with people? Do you think
Oh,
that it's
yeah,
necessary to have the government to support that, or should we be doing it? And those kind of conversation is truly what awareness is all about. Because we can spew out all kind of information, but really the society is out there. So you need to know what people think of them and how they're going to support them or how they're going to reject them. And then you're able to help your loved one to navigate through the world. I think of my grandson and I said, oh, I wonder what it's going to be like when he has to live on his own.
yeah,
And I talked to one of my friends, her son, he went off to college. So that answers one question. It's
yeah.
not about intellect.
It's
Um,
possible.
but he did not have a real desire for personal hygiene. And so the doctor told him, just let him go. If he doesn't want to brush his teeth for 3 weeks, let him brush. He'll find out. He'll find out what happens when he interacts with people and he hasn't brushed his teeth for 3 weeks. But you don't have to keep telling him. He's an adult now. Let him find out for himself. And she just listened and she did it. It was the hardest thing because she wanted him to be well
Accepted, yeah.
accepted, but he wasn't the only one that didn't brush their teeth for 3 weeks. It was just it was just something that he had to learn to do. And if he wanted to change, he changed it. If not, it might be a month, a year, who knows. But the thing was, he was not the only one on that campus that was doing the same thing, you know. And so, he learned that, oh, I'm not so different from that guy. And because I don't comb my hair to the right or to the left, I'm not so different from the other guy. And he learned how to maneuver amongst friends, among people who are not friends, and he became a well-adjusted adult living in society. But
Wow.
his mom had to back up a little bit and just let him grow into his self, grow into and to establish his own story.
And that's true. We do it with our children naturally that are what we perceive as being normal. And I always say that normal is because
Yeah,
I don't know really what normal is in our society anymore. But it's the same thing of what we do in to our children is when they're growing up, and it happens to all sorts of children with special needs or without. We put our own fears into our children, which holds them back. So we have to allow our kids, as they're growing up, to fall. And
yeah,
this is exactly what you're saying, because if nobody falls, how are they going to learn? How are they going to grow? That was me as a child all through it. I was the one who my parents would say that the burners is hot, and I had to know how hot it was. So, but I eventually learned, right? And
yeah.
that's what, I used to, worry about my son who wouldn't eat vegetables. And the doctor would say, well, he's still growing up, Glenda. He's still developing. So why are you worried so much? So we have to learn sometimes that we need to step back and allow society, just things to happen. And, that's a great learning. And it sometimes can be very hard.
Sure, absolutely. I know when you were talking about food, my grandson, he has certain textures that he likes to eat, and not all of them are the most nutritious things. And once again, the doctor did the same thing, that said, well, you know what? Look at the growth chart. He's
Yeah.
eating something. He's eating something, and he just doesn't like the feel of certain foods in his mouth, and he's not going to eat it. And he goes to McDonald's, he orders a Happy Meal, no meat,
Okay, well,
no meat whatsoever, and so it ends up being a grilled cheese sandwich. But that's his Happy Meal. And he wants the bun, he wants all the condiments, and he wants the cheese, but don't put a piece of meat anywhere near it because the texture of the meat does not fit well in his mouth, and he's never going to eat it. So whatever nutrients are in that piece of meat, he has to get it from something else, but not from meat. So I'm okay with that. But once again, he taught me that. And watching him and observing him, I learned something as an adult. from him.
It's a great lesson learned from all, and for all of us, we need to realize that, and seeing that you gotta, pick your battles, because
Absolutely.
it's not worth the to get, like, let's say if you use that meat situation to be pushing that on to develop, then what ends up happening is they start shutting down on even wanting to be with you.
Yes.
So you don't want that happening. It's you allow things to just be, and you know what, it's not worth, like you're saying, you see the child developing, it's really not worth the fight. You look for other things that you can add to a diet, or something else,
Sure.
or even a child that's really incredibly shy. Instead of pushing them into people, that child will come around sooner or later, and all of a sudden start to feeling more confident, more better to be able to talking to people. So it's all about picking what you need to pick. It's not about pushing somebody into a belief or into doing something that so you get your way.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned that, it reminded me. I mentioned about my partner, T.Y. Martin, who trains kids in acting, and he's actually decided that he would join our little contingent group to go over to Ghana to work with kids with autism to teach them acting skills, because that's
Wow.
been found to be one of the things that helps them to develop some of the social skills. So,
Yeah.
in particular, like if you have a child that does not like to hug or does not like to interact with people and things, if you teach them to, well, that's not really you, the character,
Hmm.
that, and for them to embrace the character. And so they're doing the same action, but it's not really them because they're acting. And they know that they get applause for it. Oh, well, this is something that I might want to repeat. So they found that a lot of kids with autism respond really well to acting classes. And we have some adults that are now, they say, well, I have autism, and they're been actors all their life. So, and we see them in movies, and then we're like, oh, now I know, now I understand why I don't see them out in the public so much. So because that stage is
Sure.
where they get a chance to do something that's outside of the norm and helps them to develop and things like that. So we're promoting that. My friend who has 10 Montessori schools in Ghana, and they take in kids who have autism. So we're going to send a group. My daughter's a Montessori teacher. We're going to send a group over there. Ty is he teaches actors, and we're just going to go over there and have fun and learn from them. They think we're coming to teach them, but
Yeah,
we're
no,
going
no,
to
no.
learn from them and just have a great time. So yeah,
Oh, Mary, you are
life it's just so wonderful. If you run out of ideas of things to do, just give me a call. I can give you a whole list of
oh
things.
yeah, I can see that. Wow, you are such an inspiration to others. I'm just so thrilled and so glad that you found your answers with your health problems. And what can you tell somebody if they're finding that they're having troubles moving forward in their life because maybe life has just become so hard? Can you give anybody a bit of inspiration, what helps you keep going forward when those times come?
Yeah, well, one of the things is I learned that as a parish nurse, that I used to set up things for people to have blood pressure screens. Well, they would come in and talk about everything except blood pressure. So I learned the value of having a safe place where people can come and express what's going on with their lives, and sometimes they ask for advice, and sometimes they just want to talk. And I am especially aware that this whole thing that we do with coaching is so important for people because that gives them the opportunity to hear their own voices, express what's going on, what's important in their lives, but they also get an opportunity to be active in setting up an agenda so that they can make the changes in their life and have that accountability and have that feedback. So I think that if you see that there is an opportunity to connect with a coach, such as Glenda, please take that opportunity because it is so important. Chrysalis has the symbol of the little caterpillar that turns into a butterfly.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's not an automatic transformation. There are steps that have to occur to make that happen. But that caterpillar goes into a cocoon of safety and they grow and they grow and they grow. And when it's time to emerge, they emerge as a new, beautiful creature. What better symbol is there for that transformative process that occurs when you align yourself with a coach that helps you go from that caterpillar to the butterfly? So that's my advice. Take advantage of those opportunities. It's not just there by chance. It's there to help people transform their lives into the fullness of what they're supposed to be.
And that's exactly it. I try telling that to people all the time that life isn't supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be flowing. It's supposed to be loving. It's supposed to be happy. And you can have it all.
Absolutely.
It's also the way you look at things. It's not, it's not black and white. And you can, if whether you can or whether you can't, either right way, you are right. And we'll all make it through, but it's really of the type of mindset. And it's learning to develop the mindset of being happy, looking at the opportunity and everything, because there is always good. No matter what life has to give to you, you will always find good underneath something. You have to just look sometimes.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's the beauty of it is the unveiling, what's the joy, you pick up a rock and you look underneath and there it is, so it's like, oh, I didn't know that was under there, but there are just opportunities everywhere to unveil the beauty that we have been provided. I have a faith system that says that everything that you need has been provided for you, you know
It's true.
and it's the unfolding to find out where those things are. It's there, but sometimes you have to pick up a rock and look under. Oh, I didn't know that was there for me. And it was, and that's the beauty of it, is the unfolding and discovery of all the things that are provided for you to live a full and useful, productive life of happiness.
Beautiful. You couldn't have, I couldn't have said it any better than you just did. Absolutely beautiful. I thank you.
I
Now,
thank
if
you.
somebody would like to, you want to give us some, and I will post this down later, ways of getting in touch with you if they would like to speak with you further.
Absolutely. I do have admin at Chrysalis, and that's with a T, studios.com, that I can get things, but also, there are lengthy things. There are ways of calling into the radio show. There are ways of contacting my nonprofit organization that works in Ghana and things like that. So if you would be so kind to share that with everyone, I would greatly appreciate it. And uh,
Absolutely.
you
And
know,
on Facebook?
yes, and on Facebook as well. I'm Mary Mitchell, and Chrysalis Studios and Mode are the pages that I have. My, I guess, would consider business pages are Chrysalis Studios and Mode, MOADE, is the organization for that focuses on the development in Ghana. But yeah, I'm on Facebook all the time, trying to not only tell what I'm doing, but I'm so interested in what everyone else is doing and how we can, walk down that road together and help each other.
Yeah, me too. And that's what, to me, life is supposed to be about. It's supposed to
Absolutely.
be in helping, because what a beautiful world it can be if we just, when somebody goes to sort of trip, that we can be there to sort of catch them so they don't fall. And
Absolutely.
it just makes life a lot happier and more joyful. What great thing to be around people and to be involved in somebody else's laughter.
Absolutely. Well, my dear, I'm gonna have to say goodbye to you, and
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
And hopefully, you will take the opportunity to come on our radio. This lady has a dynamic story, and I want everyone to hear about it. And I would be thrilled if you come on our radio show and just let us know who you really are and why you are. Tell your
Thank you so
story.
much. I will be telling my story. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
today. And absolutely, I will be more than thrilled to be joining you as well. Be
Thank you.
well, stay healthy, and I look forward to our next meeting.
Likewise. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.